So I recently got the new PureHeart Fenny. I have been testing her for a bit. I got her signature weapon, and I would say that out of all of the DPS characters we have in the game, I do think PureHeart Fenny takes a little bit more skill to play, especially if you're not pairing her up with Etchel. Fenny is going to be up in the air majority of her DPS, so she is going to be vulnerable to attacks. She does have damage to interruption resistance, so you don't have to worry about her getting knocked in the air. She can also like move through the air for a bit, but she doesn't really feel that fast in the air. Her DPS is a pretty good combination of ballistic damage and skill damage. I've been playing her against the neural simulation Nijal boss. I have died numerous times to the boss, however, my dumb ass forgot to level up her neural skills, so I think I could have saved myself 20 minutes if I just leveled up her skills, but I forgot to do that. And I definitely noticed a huge difference. She does feel pretty strong to play. I can definitely recommend pulling for PureHeart Fenny, not only because is she very strong, but later on in this patch, we do get a free Cirrus, who is going to be the best support for PureHeart Fenny. Not to mention, summer characters in general tend to be pretty strong. Last year, we had Donwing Kadia, who was very strong. And then the year before that, we got Moxer, who was a pretty good support. So I do think summer characters are definitely worth pulling for. And PureHeart Fenny is definitely not different. Definitely worth pulling for. 100%. However, because she does take a bit of skill to play, I would highly recommend you try her out in the trial and just see how she plays for you. Her kit basically just works like this. Her standard skill slams into the enemy, and then she'll back off and enter the aerial state. She also obtains 100 stamina and replenishes her own ammo. She also obtains the thermal aptitude bonus while she's in the aerial state, and while you are in the aerial state, you'll basically have like this weird, slow matrix-like thing going on. You can either left click for single target damage or right click for AoE damage. If you don't click either or, I think she'll just fall back into the ground. But you'll want Fenny in the air as often as you can. If you're dealing with mobs, you're going to be right clicking for AoE damage. But if you're dealing with a boss, you're going to be left clicking to get the single target damage. While she's in the aerial state, you'll also see like a circle in the middle of the screen. There's 3 pieces that fill up the circle. Whenever Fenny shoots, a piece will be completed and you'll see her standard skill glow. You're basically going to be standard skill, shoot, standard skill again, shoot, standard skill, and then her burst will be unlocked once 3 pieces are in the circle. Fenny herself doesn't need ultimate energy to cast her ultimate, but if she does have 50 ultimate energy while she's using her ult, not only does it have a stronger effect, but you also get a different animation as well. However, because she is so fucking strong, you know, I hardly ever saw it. I only really saw it once, and I was a little bit shocked to see it at first. I was like, whoa, that ultimate energy, that ultimate animation was different, but you're probably not going to be seeing it that much. Maybe if you're using her free-to-play weapon, you'll probably see it because she probably wouldn't be as strong. But the fact that her ultimate deals more damage whenever she has more ultimate energy, that basically means she can pair pretty well with the Magician Test, since Magician Test basically gives you free ultimate energy. But as I said earlier, her standard skill and her ballistic damage deal more than enough damage to the enemy, so you're probably not going to be seeing her second ultimate animation that often, or you probably don't really need to focus that much on it. But it's good to know that Magician Test could, you know, still be put to work, since she was like the OG Test. Now, compared to other thermal damage dealers, PureHeart Fenny, as I said before, she alternates between skill damage and shooting damage, aka ballistic damage. Compared to Kasana Cirrus only really uses her skill and ultimate. You're not really going to be using Cirrus's ballistic damage that much unless you're dealing with an enemy that needs their parts breaking down, like Joseph or that crab enemy. I don't know how PureHeart Fenny will fare that well against Joseph. You're most likely going to be using Etchel with Fenny. If you're using Fenny with the Joseph, at least Kasana can at least, deal with Joseph herself since she has a shotgun. So I think Sirius at least has a much more higher advantage when she's facing off against Joseph. Boo Boo only really uses this pure ballistic damage. Her skill deals no damage whatsoever. Her skill is basically just used to restore her S energy since her ballistic shots consume skill energy. Pulse Nita is one of the best low-cost characters since she can solo content on her own since Nita has self-heal. But overall, I do think PureHeart Fenny is relatively pretty strong, and I do think she's going to get stronger when her free support comes later this patch. So I can definitely recommend pulling for Fenny. However, her playstyle might not be for you. I think she is probably very fun to play, and out of all the characters, I think she might have like I think she's definitely like well loved by the developers, since not only does Fenny in general have like a lot of skins, but like this PureHeart Fenny, she does have some pretty good animations. Her kit is definitely very different than any other character we've had so far. But yeah, if you got the pull to pull for Fenny, I definitely highly recommend you pull for Fenny. Summer characters tend to be pretty strong, and Fenny is no exception. So yeah, pull her if you can. If not, then, just save up. And that's basically all I have to say. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later.
Bye-bye now. Come again soon.